Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We have some incredible cryptocurrency news for you today. This is incredible. This is industry breaking news. Binance is going to buy FTX. Is this really happening? Why is Binance buying FTX? Is this a good thing for crypto? I want to know your thoughts down in the comments, but I'm going to share with you my thought towards the end of the video. The first thing I want to recap is what in the world happened here. And I want to look at what's happened since and how did we get to the place where one of the largest crypto exchanges in the world is now going to buy one of the rising star and also one of the largest crypto exchanges. I mean, both these exchanges are behemoths. How in the world did Sam Blankenship or whatever his name is, how in the world did he end up getting forced in a corner where he has to sell to CZ, the CEO of Binance? And not everybody thinks CZ's necessarily a great guy. Although in this current moment in time in history, for now, I'm on his side. And I'll explain why I say for now in a moment. But for now, I'm on his side. I didn't see this coming. And I wonder how many people saw this coming. Because up until a few days ago, FTX was known to be bulletproof. I mean, a couple months ago, they were the ones bailing out all these other companies and hedge funds, and the CEO was going out and talking about he couldn't understand why more people wasn't helping the industry at large, and FTX was, bailing out the different people that were affected by the lunar crash. And now FTX potentially could be insolvent. What? How do we get here? By the way, just a side note, I like the FTT token. I've looked at it before, and mainly because it's connected to FTX, and I like the BNB token. But ladies and gentlemen, you never really know what's going on behind the scenes. It's one of the reasons I like earning yield and passive income in cryptocurrency. And I'm talking about my favorite is real yield. I just did a video talking about that, where you're getting paid essentially from real revenue the businesses are being generated. When that's happening, you know that these companies aren't insolvent because you're literally getting a percentage of the yield. And it also, the other thing that it does when you get a percentage of the yield, it hedges some of your weakness. So if you make 50% a year, then if the token price goes down by 50%, then you're shielded. If the token price goes up, then you're doing incredible. You got paid 50% a year, but you got to get paid that in real yield. I'll put a video up in the cards. There's a link in the description. You can go check my last video where I talked about 6 different projects that pay in real yield. Let's get back to Twitter. What and this whole battle that happened between FTX and Binance. So how did we get to this place? It all started with a Twitter fight that broke out between CZ right here, the CEO of Binance, and FTX. So we have to actually back up. What really happened was the FTX CEO, I think it's Sam Blankman. I always mess up his last name. Anyway, he came out and basically, oh, there it is. Bankman-Fried, Blankenship. Where was I getting that from? Bankman-Fried. He came out and he is very well connected in U.S. politics. He started FTX offshore, moved onshore, recently relocated offices to Miami from Chicago. Everything was going great. He's one of the largest U.S. political donors. Arguably, he's doing this for business reasons. He came out and proposed some DeFi regulations, which essentially were making DeFi more centralized, more CeFi, more controlled, more easily regulated by the government, and got away from DeFi to begin with. Now, not everything that calls itself DeFi is truly DeFi, decentralized finance. Decentralized finance means that it can run essentially on its own and it can't be easily shut down. Arguably, something like Tornado Cash is DeFi. The government makes it illegal to use it, but it can't ever truly get shut down. That's true decentralized finance, if you will, being able to exist without, a central authority. Well, what Sam Bankman-Fried was proposing was essentially creating regulations that would make DeFi be heavily regulated. And he got a tremendous amount of backlash in Twitter, as he should. One of the people who basically tweeted back at him was CZ. And CZ essentially said initially, hey, this is not good for the overall ecosystem at all. We don't appreciate this. and we want to distance ourselves. And CZ, in the early days, had really helped fund the startup of FTX. And so he's like, we don't appreciate this, so we're going to start selling our holdings of FTT tokens, which is the FTX native token or exchange token. And he said they were going to start selling the tokens. That's what happened first. He even came out later and said he was going to try to sell them to minimize price impact. That's what came out originally. And if you go through this article, he threw up an unexpected roundhouse as rival exchange FTX on Sunday, declaring his company would dump its holdings of FTX. That's the token that the FTX customers can use to obtain perks and discounts on the platform, but whose trading price also serves as a proxy for the prospects of FTX as a whole. Binance's decision to dump the token, explained CZ, was just a matter of prudence, alluding to a leaked balance sheet. This is where it got juicy. A leaked balance sheet that showed FTX sister company Almeida's Research held a large position in FTT. Liquidating our FTT is just post-exit risk management, learning from Luna, CZ wrote on Twitter, referring to the infamous algorithmic stablecoin that imploded this spring. So here's what happened. There was a balance sheet that got leaked, and that balance sheet essentially showed that, well, first of all, many of us have known that FTTs doesn't have a lot of liquidity on the exchanges, meaning you can't sell very much of them. We'll come to find out a significant amount of the balance sheet that Almeida Research is holding, and Almeida Research was also a company of Sam Bankman-Fried. He started basically this investment group, Almeida Research. Almeida Research were the financial backers, if you will, of FTX, and come to find out, a significant portion of their holdings was in these FTT tokens, which they could not sell, which meant that it was possible that FTX was going to become insolvent. The leaked balance sheet, which FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried says shows only a portion of Almeida's total assets, provides more fodder for critics who say there's an unhealthy overlap between SBF's trading company and his exchange. But there's clearly more to Binance's decision to sell off his FTT tokens, as CZ himself suggested. And this is where it goes. We gave support before, but we won't pretend to make love after divorce. We are not against anyone. And this is where I agree with him. But we won't support people who lobby against other industry players behind their backs, CZ wrote in an apparent reference to recent calls for more crypto regulations by Sam Bankman-Fried, who is also one of the biggest campaign donors in U.S. politics. Sam Bankman-Fried, meanwhile, took to Twitter to say this is where he tries to patch it up. This is where he tries to make it all better. He took to Twitter to say FTX and its assets are just fine despite false rumors spread by a competitor, and to tell CZ he would love to work together, quote unquote, for the ecosystem. So here he's claiming, oh, no, we're actually fine. We would love to work with you. Yet, and then this started happening. Binance said it was going to go ahead and liquidate its entire token. So originally he wasn't going to dump them. Originally he said he was going to try to minimize the impact. He came back later and was like, no, we're just going to get rid of them because now we think FTX is going to be insolvent. And what started happening was they started showing sluggish withdrawals. I mean, very limited withdrawals. On-chain data shows withdrawal requests, which, by the way, this is why blockchain is so important, because FTX could blame a lot of things, but when you see the on-chain data suggesting that, hey, all of a sudden you're not moving any cryptocurrency, it's hard to say why you're not moving it other than you don't have the funds. Withdrawal transactions for customers using FTX, the third largest crypto exchange by volume, have seemingly been limited to a nominal amount or none at all. None at all, according to multiple on-chain data sources. Stablecoin withdrawals from FTX dropped to 0 around 6 a.m. on Tuesday. According to data on CryptoQuant, it dropped to 0. Meanwhile, around 6 a.m., that's crazy, that was this morning. Meanwhile, withdrawals of Ethereum's token have been small during the same time frame. CryptoQuant data also showed Etherscan data also revealed that FTX withdrawals are currently executing for up to 0.12 or about $170 of Ether. That's all they were executing for. As FTX net crypto asset holdings decreased by 83% over the past 2 days, they seem to be struggling to process withdrawals. For example, right here, for example, when their users exchange ETH for stablecoins and request withdrawals, FTX has to bring stablecoin liquidity to process the draw via markets or other exchanges, meaning they did not have the freaking funds. FTX's stablecoin reserves have decreased 93% over the past 2 weeks, and it has injected USDC liquidity from Alameda Research wallets. The suspension of withdrawals seems to be a liquidity problem for users. This is crazy. Okay, so then of course, we get this. Binance to acquire FTX unit to help with liquidity crunch. Checkmate CZ. So obviously when Sam Bankman-Fried said, no, we're just fine, obviously they were not just fine. Obviously. Now, a couple of things that's not directly related to this feud and Binance buying FTX. Now, here's my take on this. The reason this happens is the same reason that we have a run on a bank. They obviously did not have full liquidity to be able to liquidate customers. And that's nearly impossible in a centralized ecosystem. If all of a sudden all your customers want to sell all their tokens, say everybody wanted to sell into Bitcoin or everybody wanted to sell into a stable coin, it would be almost impossible for the exchanges to service that liquidity for all of their customers. All their customers cannot cash out all at once. That is part of the problem with our banking system, literally. However, that does not really happen in the same way on a decentralized exchange. Not saying that decentralized exchanges have unlimited liquidity, but you always know exactly how much liquidity is there in a decentralized exchange. You can see the liquidity because it's in LP tokens. Now, maybe not everyone knows how to do that, but you can see what liquidity is there because it's all on chain, because it's all in a blockchain. So for me, this sort of makes a case why we need more decentralized finances, less centralized finances, more decentralized exchanges, less centralized exchanges. However, there will be a move to make decentralized finance more and more difficult. And unfortunately, we got plenty of people who are gullible and they lose money in DeFi, and then they, beg the government to help them. They beg the government to help them. If you ask the government, if you want safety and security, you're not going to have liberty at the same time. It's very difficult to ask the government to keep protecting you, let me keep doing what I want to do with my money. When you're asking for the government's help, you're saying, hey, you need to protect me from making bad decisions. Therefore, the government has to limit some of the decisions you can make with your money. Now, overall, is this a good thing? And let's just get away from DeFi versus CeFi, centralized exchanges. Do I think this is good overall? If we're talking about just centralized exchanges, I think it's both good and bad. Many of you who follow my channel, when I review products, when I review projects, I always talk about both good and the bad. So even when I talk about the projects, like in my video where I talked about real yield, I went through 6 projects, but I tried to share with you both the good and the bad. So I think there's some positives and there's some negatives. Here's the positives. For now, CZ appears to be very much pro-cryptocurrency. And that means limit the regulations or be very careful with the regulations. Any regulations that's going to hurt the exchange's ability to service more customers, CZ doesn't like it, obviously. And I think that's good overall. As a cryptocurrency enthusiast who wants to see more decentralization all the time, I think having less regulations is a good thing, or being very, very careful with the regulations that we have. So I think it's a good thing. I was stunned and disappointed to see what Sam Bankman-Fried had said about regulations. And I mean, it was overstepping is an understatement. And I couldn't figure out if he's trying to do favors for somebody politically on the inside by being the industry leader saying, no, we need to have these sort of regulations, or if he was trying to suck up the politicians out of his own business interest. I could not figure out his motives, or maybe he fundamentally believed that, what he said. But here's what we do know. If you look at Sam Bankman-Fried's history, it's always been very much just a strong profit motive history. He didn't run to crypto because he thought, it was a great technology. He ran there just for the money. Listen, I get it. I'm here for the money too, but I first believe in the technology. And I believe just being in the space early and making wise decisions, not getting overcommitted in any one area, focusing on passive income in this space while holding stable assets that may go up over time like Bitcoin and Ethereum, I believe that we're all going to get ahead because of the technology. The technology underpins everything in the long run. But if you're here just to make a buck, then ultimately you're gonna sacrifice the industry. You're gonna speak against the true freedom that cryptocurrency offers, in my opinion. And that's what he was doing, it looked like. And CZ, having been in the space longer, and I don't know his true motives. That's the thing. So here's the positive. The positive is what CZ said, I agree with. His decision to acquire FTX, having a CEO that's willing to say, hey, no, we want less regulations or we want more crypto-friendly regulations. Therefore, I think this is a short-term win. Long-term, two things bother me. First thing that bothers me is that, and then I'll tell you what I'm doing because of it. The first thing that bothers me right now with this whole thing is I don't truly know what CZ's long-term play is. I don't truly know if he's like a politician right now, just speaking to the choir, winning the Twitter crypto game by saying, hey, this is bad. We shouldn't want these regulations. They're too stringent. They're too tight. I don't know if he's just playing politics and he's just looking out for number one alone, or if he really is a true believer in crypto. There are CEOs, I think it's Voorhees, is it Jason Voorhees over at Shapeshift? That dude is a true believer in crypto, like true believer in crypto. So I don't know if CZ's that yet. So we've got to continue to watch what he does long term. The other thing that I don't like is I don't think lack of competition is ever really good. So now we're going to essentially lose one independent player. I mean, FTX may still exist, but it's going to be FTX plus Binance. But it's ultimately getting run by Binance. So I don't think centralization is actually good. Having less competitors is truly a net positive in the long run. And so that does concern me a little bit as well. However, Binance, their customer service is iffy. They don't have enough customer service staff, but overall, they offer a great product, and I like using Binance 100%. And I was looking to transition over to FTX. Now I'm going to have to wait and see what happens, meaning I was going to put part of my funds in FTX just to create some diversification and some safety. Now it's like, wow, I would have never known my funds were at risk in FTX. Another side note for crypto, not your keys, not your crypto. If Binance did not swoop in here, if you had funds on FTX, it's very likely if FTX would have went insolvent, you would have just lost your funds. That is insane, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely insane. On a side note, go watch my video, 6 real yield crypto projects. These are 6 projects that are paying real yield, meaning you can earn income every single day, a share of the actual business profits that each of these businesses are creating for themselves every single day. They share their profits with the token holders. In many cases, that's actually how the project itself makes money, by holding a significant portion of tokens. So maybe we own 10%, the project owns 50% or whatever. Maybe we own 50%, the project owns 10%, whatever. We as individuals in total. That 10% the project holds, the revenue that they get by holding those tokens is how many of these projects actually make income, which I think is awesome because it aligns their profit motive with the crypto token holders, you and I, the investor. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think this Binance buying FTX is good for crypto? And if you made it to the end, let me know that as well down in the comments. Decentralized cryptocurrency equals freedom. This is Crypto Wealth. I'm out.